You are welcome to yet another episode of HN What's Your Say? The #1 listening show where we discuss real issues with real people like you. We are still featuring R. Kelly. Real name Robert Sylvester Kelly. Also known as the R&B King. The case against R. Kelly is not the first we have seen where a successful black man has been unfairly targeted and locked up with a total lack of supporting evidence. It's not the first time we have seen such a malicious legal process like this one where one of our own has been subjected to a court that is kangaroo in nature, where the verdict is already predetermined and the hearing simply a formality to make believe that due process was followed when it wasn't. R. Kelly was already destined to be found guilty right from the start, and that is the reason the judge confidently denied him bail, claiming he was a flight risk. If they had known he was going to receive a fair trial, they would have had second thoughts before denying him bail for fear of losing their jobs if found to have committed crimes during the legal process. But because they were already guaranteed a win against him, they felt they had the impunity enough to prejudice the R&B King and get away with it like they have done. But what are the chances that the government can get away with this conspiracy against the R&B King? For how long do they think they can hold him and keep him inside before someone sane enough to do the right thing takes over the matter and returns his freedom? We have seen the very same laws currently being used against R. Kelly abused by this same federal government in the past and used to discriminate against the black community, just as the Mann Act was weaponized against successful black heavyweight boxing champ of 1912 Jack Johnson, and used in destroying his career only 2 years from the time the law was enacted. We keep mentioning Jack Johnson as the perfect example only because he was a renowned figure in society who had represented his nation in international boxing challenges, only to be later rewarded with hatred coupled with prejudicial racial injustice. However, there are many more innocent black people currently languishing in U.S. prisons on account of such racial injustice, but sadly because they are not known, they are faced with the possibility of life behind bars with no way out. Now that the whole nation knows their hidden agenda, the government cannot simply get away with locking up R. Kelly for the rest of his life like they wish to. And R. Kelly will be out of the woods sooner than later. The government cannot keep a man in prison only because he had multiple exes that left their relationships dissatisfied with the way it ended. Men are not supposed to pay the price for every single heartbreak they cause after a relationship has ended, but surprisingly, this is what the government seems to be advocating for when they forced restitutions from his Sony royalties to be paid to these ex-girlfriends. Reading through the New York and Chicago trial transcripts, however, reveals plenty of legal malpractice by government and its witnesses that was intended to disadvantage the R&B King. And indeed, the illegal actions of the prosecutors assisted by the Department of Justice denied R. Kelly the opportunity to put out a good defense for himself, which is every citizen's primary right. With all Kelly's primary rights hijacked, the government believes they secured a permanent win against him, but they are so wrong. It may prove quite complicated to get R. Kelly out of this trap that was set up purposefully to take his life away from him, but eventually, as always, there will be one man or woman of substance in the justice system who will prefer to do the right thing, and R. Kelly will return to freedom. The system cannot all be rotten that no one will say no to this injustice. Taking the example of Jack Johnson's matter, even in his death, Donald Trump eventually stood firm and did half the right thing. Even though pardoning him did not see his family monetarily compensated, it did mean a lot that he now has no criminal record even in his death, and for his family legacy that is very important. However, this is no longer 1912, and R. Kelly's matter will not wait to be addressed posthumous like Jack Johnson's. There is nothing to doubt when it comes to the allegations against government. They committed numerous crimes against R. Kelly and violated the U.S. Constitution. R. Kelly started to feel the load of dealing with a malicious system right at the start of his legal ordeals when he was unduly denied bail, and his bail application monies embezzled by the court officials. And then came the most unfair jury selection process where loyal fans of the surviving R. Kelly mudslinging campaign series were recruited to judge him. If these jurors had not promised prejudice during the jury selection interviews, we would give them a benefit of doubt, but interestingly, they did mention R. Kelly's legal status as one where they would illogically imagine guilt. The judge, who was also equally biased, ignored this and proceeded to trial the incompetent jurors. Then the strange charges that in normal circumstances would have been nowhere on his charge sheet were also listed, and this too was ignored by the courts. R. Kelly clearly operated no illegal enterprise, and if he had any sexual relationships with his accusers, he acted alone all through. For the government to charge him with RICO violation, therefore, it was not only legally wrong but also an indicator of the ongoing misuse of the laws. Attorney Jennifer Bonjean was clear in her appeal submission when she said the original intent of the RICO enactment was to stop illegal enterprises, and would therefore ideally look out for a criminal enterprise rooted in crime, but not a criminal who is also a member of a legal enterprise that does legitimate business. This is the case with R. Kelly. Just because he had a music management team does not make him liable to RICO violation charges. All the team did was legal business, and just because he committed any alleged crimes with his girlfriends does not make his music team an illegal enterprise. The RICO charges are therefore simply an indicator of government impunity and their tendency to operate above the law. Unfortunately, they only find the need to do this when they are dealing with a particular type of defendant who looks like R. Kelly. If these very laws have been historically used to marginalize black people, why should we believe that with R. Kelly's case they were fair? And this brings us to the Unreasonable Man Act charges, which have seen the same government unapologetically target black defendants, and use them as tools to fight what Donald Trump now calls baseless racial wars. It's a shame that our country will continue to racially marginalize black people by quoting these laws, such that later on, after these affected persons are long gone, the presidents can then become heroes by pardoning them posthumous like Trump did Jack Johnson. We certainly will not forgive our government for this malicious and strategic racial discrimination pattern. Perhaps the family of Jack Johnson should receive compensation for every single day their grandfather was labeled a sexual predator for Trump's apology to make sense. For decades, the family of Johnson had to deal with the stigma of having a convicted person in their family, yet Trump only gained votes and status for simply pardoning him. And the very same government is shamelessly doing the same thing now to R. Kelly. While R. Kelly will not remain in prison long enough as to satisfy the malicious government which wants him to die in incarceration, he will be out sooner than they can imagine, because his cases are weak, and anyone in their right senses can see how concocted the charges against him are. R. Kelly is not guilty for RICO or Mann Act violation. According to Guns, this R. Kelly situation only shows a perfect reflection of what our government is all about. I have never seen a government so self-centered as the US government, which pretends to the rest of the world to be the custodian of global human rights, yet will violate the rights of black people on this land at every opportunity. Pardoning Jack Johnson was a political stunt by Trump to win the black voters. If he didn't need the vote, the status would still be the same. Enough of this racial imbalance. R. Kelly should be returned to us. If you wish to take part in a live interview on this channel discussing any of these topics, let us know by emailing us on sashahnnewsroom@gmail.com for scheduling. That is all we had for you today on HN What's Your Say. To keep updated whenever we post a new video, subscribe to this channel now. Also remember to hit the bell icon and enable notifications. And feel free to share your opinions with us in the comment section below, and let us know if you would like us to publish your views in our next release. We value all our subscribers' opinions.